So I asked Billy, I said, so talk to me a little bit about some of the best teams that you've been on. And Billy, what did you say?
By far, it was the team that Becky and I worked on together.
Hey guys, it's Becky and Billy. Hey, welcome to our weekly tidbits where we give you tiny little gems each week to help you in your leadership journey.
We have a passion to help leaders get unstuck. So if you're serious about your leadership journey, tune in weekly. Hey guys, welcome to this week's tidbit. So Billy,
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? How are
We're
you?
we're good. We're
We
good. So
are
we're
good.
still talking about career advice, right?
Yeah, we are. So what direction are we going today?
Yeah, so today we're talking about teamwork, right? And just the importance of that. And I think that Becky and I were just kind of chatting a little bit before we got on, and I was like, I think as a young leader, I probably didn't value teamwork as much as I should have because I was just still trying to prove myself and trying to do it all on my own. And then I got introduced to an amazing team, and it really changed my perspective. So I think that sometimes when we're young, again, in that leadership role, we try to just do all the things, but it's important that we bring our team along with us. So that's kind of where
Yeah.
we're going this week. Becky, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's so funny. So whenever Billy and I were like preparing for this, we were like, there's so much about career development that we could go, so many directions. And so I was like, one of the biggest things for me, and I listened to a podcast earlier this week, and we'll definitely share some of that with you guys. But I was telling Billy all about it, and I was like, and she's like, what keeps coming up for me is you're telling me this? And I was like, what's that? And she was like, just the importance of teamwork. And I was like, oh gosh, yes. Isn't that so important when we think about career development and working on ourselves and, within just building our own personal brand. So I asked Billy, I said, so talk to me a little bit about some of the best teams that you've been on. And Billy, what did you say?
By far, it was the team that Becky and I worked on together with there were three or four other ladies, and then we had some males that came into the mix later. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was just like, well, what I described to her, and I'll just describe it to you because I'm super passionate about it because we were literally the best team ever because we
Yeah.
just picked up each other's, if somebody was struggling in an area, we just intuitively knew, like, okay, I need to go help Becky. I'm not even going to ask her. I'm just going to do it. And same for me, it was just like we worked so well together. We were so in sync. And I know that female leaders sometimes get a bad rap, but we just worked so well together in every aspect. And we were there for each other and we had each other's back,
Mm-hmm.
and Becky talked about the feedback portion of that. And I'll let her talk
Yeah.
about that in a second. But we just learned so much from each other and we just built off each other's strengths and opportunities. And it was just like, honestly, it was the perfect team. And we haven't worked together in probably 15 years, maybe.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That
But
is
we're all
crazy.
still very, very close and we all stay in
Absolutely.
touch. And anytime we're all in the same town, we always get together. So
Yeah.
that's the team it was the dream team. That is the team I think about for sure.
Yeah, it definitely was the dream team. And you talk about like, I'll be honest, when I came to the team, like I was like, oh goodness, because it was all women, right? And Billy, you talked about this, like I think sometimes just a group of women, like the word that I remember coming to my head so often was like, I hope it doesn't get catty. And because,
Mm-hmm.
working in a team of just women, sometimes it can be like that. And by far, this team was not that. We were absolutely, like
Mm-mm.
Billy said, there for one another. I can remember, Billy, I don't even know if you remember this. I remember you and I were working on a project, and I think it was like our idea. We were just like, hey, we think our leaders need this. And so it's kind of like a getting back to the basics, if you will, for our leaders. And I remember like, being just super excited about creating this. And I think you and I were actually the two that were leading it, which is kind of funny considering where we sit today. Um,
Yes, that is
but we created like this program and where it was several different lunch and learns, right? About like helping leaders to lead. Do you remember this?
I do. I didn't know where you were going, but I do. I remember the lunch and learn. That is awesome.
Yes.
How
And
funny.
it was so fun. But I remember there were certain aspects that I was like, I know nothing about this. And you were like, oh, no, totally. Like, and we were talking about this. Like, we didn't even have to say out loud, I'm not comfortable with this, or this is
Right.
not where I do well at. Like, we really did um, we were able to lean on each other really well then.
Mm-hmm.
And Billy was talking about like the feedback. That group, it really did teach me how to give feedback and how to receive feedback. Like I can remember there were several in this organization, like we had very specific like goals that we had to achieve. And at the end of every year, like we had like a yearly review. And I can remember so many of those yearly reviews, like just thinking like, it's hard, like I just wasn't good at receiving feedback. So I would automatically be defensive. And I can remember being in this group and just initially I was like, oh gosh, like, is it going to be like that? And there were some times that I was like, man, that's really hard feedback that I have to digest now. But not only did we talk about like, how do we give feedback, but like, why are we giving it? And it really was just to really help each other to be the best versions of ourselves and the best version of our team, right? Because I think we all knew if we could level up together, that would be huge for our team. And it really, really was. So I can even remember having tough conversations outside of our group that one of our peers, I remember very specifically just having like a very honest conversation. And I was like, I don't know that I'm equipped to have this conversation. And several times we were like, okay, this is the way it should be, like almost coaching them, and I didn't even realize it. Where it just helped me to be able to go into these conversations much more equipped, much more confident, to be assertive, but not to be aggressive, right? Not to be cocky or, degrading, but really like just say what I mean. And actually we went to a training, there was a group of us, and I remember, Billy, I don't know if you remember this too, as we're talking about this, like all these things are starting to come up. We had went to a women's conference, and one of the things that I still today tell myself often, in one of those women's conferences, it was this saying that said, say what you mean what you say, and don't be mean when you say it. And literally, like I still, like I can remember the time, in this auditorium that they told us that, and I can remember like driving back and kind of talking through that with you guys, and just something that's really just resonated with me. So much about that time was just really passionate to me, because I think I learned so much then.
Yeah, we're super passionate about that team. We could talk about them forever.
We could. And they know we still love them for sure.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. So I think when Becky and I were just talking about today, we talked about just showing up for each other. And I think that that's something that we all did very well too. Becky we all went through seasons during that time that we were working together. And I think, I lost a child during that time.
I remember.
And they were there for me over, friends I'd had for years. So I think that when you can show up for your team like that, just not work stuff, just in general, just being there for them. And we talked about that last week, like great leaders help you get better at your life. Right. So,
absolutely.
And that team definitely did that for me and my family. I mean, my family, we still talk about that team and how they impacted us. So, I think just valuing that and showing up for others when they need it the most is so important.
Yeah.
And we did
Billy,
that.
We still do. And I'm so grateful for that. So, so what about this, Billy? What about that team then is important? Or even think about teams go forward. Like, what do we want to talk about? Like, what do we hope that everybody kind of gets and sees with their personal teams?
Yeah, I think the big thing is, and I know we keep talking about this, but this is important for me and I need this too. That's why I keep talking about it, is just, staying in contact with your team, especially during this time. We still have people that work remotely. We have people that were working in the office. And I think just that constant engagement and communication with them and just really checking in on them. And it not just about work, right? Just to say, hey, how are you? Like I had one of my team members reach out to me this week and just said, hey, how's your family doing? Because they know that we'd had some health struggles, and it was nothing about work at all. It was just like, hey, how are things going? So I think, just being in constant communication with your team is what's so important. And just letting them know that you're there for them and you have their back, right?
Be human, right? Like just be human with your people.
Yes.
Yeah, I do think that is by far one of the biggest ones. I think too is like, and we were talking about this right before we pushed record, but one of the biggest things that I think as a new leader or even a leader at these times, it's okay to recognize that you don't have to have all the answers. I think that was really good about our leaders at that point. Just being open about like, we're all learning here, and we can figure it out together.
Yeah.
More often than not, what I see is like newer leaders or leaders who feel struck or stuck or feel like they're struggling. I put struck. I was trying to put two words together there. But I think what happens is when you're trying to build a team that for whatever reason, you've really got to get it, you forget to bring your team. And then here you are trying to like do all the things. Well, you're wore out, of course, and your team's not even with you. So I think like one of the biggest things for me that I would just really caution us is to make sure, like Billy said, check in with your people, but let them be a part of what's going on, like your goals, right? Of what you're expecting and where you're trying to get. So reevaluate your teams, look and see like, how can you show up for them? How do you need them to show up for you? Let them talk through of, what works well for them. What are their strengths and how would they like the team be able to function? Anything else, Billy? I think we've talked about all the things, but we forget anything?
No, I think the one other thing that Becky had this amazing podcast, and I went to this amazing women's conference this past week that was so good. And we'll definitely share more tidbits with you guys on that too, because both of those have been amazing. But one thing that one of the participants said that I loved was, and it's so simple, right? But it was like, value the service that you provide because you're all working towards a common goal. So I think that we sometimes forget that because we want to, especially I did, coming up in leadership, is I wanted to outshine everybody else. But we're all working towards that common goal, right? And that's whatever it is for your business or your customers. We all have a common goal in mind. So we need to make sure that we're working towards that and we're not serving ourselves, but we're not serving ourselves, but serving others. I'll get it out in a second. Sorry. But, but that we are serving others and that, we are working together towards a goal. So,
I think that's a great one. I think that's a whole tidbit of its own, and we'll definitely kind of tease that one out a little bit further. But in the meantime, thank you guys for listening. Good luck with your teams. Let us know if we can help you guys in any way with your own teams, whether you're a team member trying to, do all the things to make it better, or whether you're a leader, you got this, right? I know it's a very difficult and challenging times, but you're not alone in this. And we have faith in you, and we know that you guys can do it great. So thanks for joining us, and come back next week so that be sure to like and share in all the places, and we'll see you guys soon.
Yes.